Hello nerds, it's Ryan here. Before we get on to today's show, which is Nature News Week 19, I've just got a quick message for you. On last week's episode, we got a comment on Spotify from a lovely man and listener called Simon, who said that the audio was slightly on the quieter side over the last couple of weeks, and he was having to turn the volume up to 100% just to be able to hear what we were saying. First of all, Simon, thanks for letting us know. You're a legend. After a bit of investigation, we found out that some people had this problem and some people didn't. But what we've done is worked on our audio channels to have it on the louder side. So if you are usually one of those people that has to turn this podcast all the way up to hear it, you might want to be a bit careful with this one. We don't want you to hurt your luggles. As you guys know, we're an independent podcast, so we don't have a production company, we do not have a studio. It's just myself and Oscar that remotely produce and release these episodes. So if you ever have any audio issues or any technical problems and you want to feed it back to us, please know that you can do that. Just send us an email intothewildpod@gmail.com and we'll always do our best to sort the issue out. I mean, just to say how independent we are, I'm currently recording this under a duvet in my room in 28 degrees heat in London. I'm roasting, bruv. But anyway, on to this week's episode. Let's go. What did you have for dinner?
Oh, God.
Go on, share it with the group.
I just hurriedly ate a mug of Frosties.
Are you 5? Did you entertain yourself by reading the game on the back of the packet as well?
Oh, dear. Yeah, you haven't had cereal for a while.
Have they taken it off? I suppose they're all on their bloody iPads now, aren't they?
They don't get toys in them anymore either.
What? I mean, that's a good thing with the plastic in it, I guess.
What do you have for your tea? Go on. But it's going to be something really, really go on. You did a reduction. Go on, what did you do?
I had an omelette.
Oh, nice.
Oh, you know what? I did not know how you were going to react to that.
No, the humble omelette is a wonderful meal.
I had omelette and chips.
Lovely.
Like I was in Malaga in 1997.
And also 2025.
Yes.
Confirm. But also, why did you ask so smug? I thought you were going to be like, I did like a polenta mash with
I just wondered what you had for dinner. I know you've been travelling all day, so I'm always...
I did stop at T-Bay Services, big up T-Bay fans listening, and I got £9 worth of chocolate.
At a service station. Now that's either not a lot of chocolate or a lot of chocolate.
It was not a lot of chocolate.
Yeah. WH Smith's at service station make about a 500% markup on chocolate.
You're in a different universe to what I'm talking about. T-Bay Services is the Waitrose of services, but like it's like the Waitrose of Waitrose. Do you know? Like,
oh, jeez.
It's like so I got like these giant chocolate buttons with £6.50.
I'm going to bring this person up on the podcast, and there's no point in doing this because the listeners will have no idea who I'm on about. But you know my mate Mand?
Oh. Do you know what? It's a shame your listeners don't know Mand.
I'm going to start bringing up Mand more often. Do you know Mand got invited to a Waitrose tasting evening?
How did she manage that?
She walked away with like a full week's shop.
Of course she did.
I know. Mad, isn't it? Mad how that girl gets around.
Oh my God, I bet she took so much free stuff. Okay, all right, let's get on with the show.
What's been your nature highlight this week?
An adorable, adorable, adorable nature highlight, which is a family of goldfinches were just below my window. Like
a family?
Yeah, like so just recently fledged baby goldfinches, following the two so there's 2 adults, like mum and dad presumably, and then 4 like little balls of taupe velvet fluff following them around, vibrating their wings, trying to be fed, and it was an absolute... And it was at the end of a really rainy day, and it rained all day, and I hadn't been outside, and then the rain just stopped. And then I opened the window to let the fresh air in, and it was just... They were just literally there below me, just like wind up little toys. That is adorable. Would you like to know the collective noun for finches? Is it a term? Yes. Do you know the other 2? Well, the way that you said it, actually, there's got to be more. No, go on. Well,
A trembling or a trimming?
I tell you what, they were a trembling.
Were they trembling?
They weren't trimming.
That's
go on
a nice
then,
highlight.
come on.
Mine, I helped I gave wild service to my first bumblebee today, which is never, I mean, it's a highlight, but, it's never, you'd rather not have to do it. But this was one of those bumblebees that you think...
I'm sorry, I feel like part of bees' ecology is that they evolved to be cute, and they palmed off smarts for cuteness, knowing that Homo sapiens during their evolution would be like, oh, that's a cute thing.
Yeah, it's so true. I picked up one today. I took her to some bramble and I went, go on, have a drink. And she wouldn't. And I was like, oh, I thought maybe she don't like bramble. So then I found some buttercups. I thought I'd try buttercups. Nothing. And then she just stayed on my finger. I was like, oh, all right, we'll walk for a bit then. And you can just do what you want. And then she just suddenly flew off.
Oh.
So maybe she got to the ground and she couldn't get that lift. But it was very nice to carry around for 10 minutes.
It's lovely to be that. I think it's a really important part of humans, actually, is to have those moments with nature, which actually makes me very excited about Jay Griffiths' new book.
Oh.
Which is all about why we need nature and those relationships.
It is very nice.
We have to have those little relationships.
I also saw, I'm going to give Sophie Pavel a shout out on the podcast. She haven't read her new book yet.
I haven't.
But I'm very much looking forward to have it to hold. Very looking forward to reading it. But Sophie did put something on Instagram the other day talking about the whoing of nature.
I did see
in
that.
Nature Writing. It's really interesting. So calling like the bumblebee her or she and stuff like that, and giving it a more of a, I don't know, I guess an identity. Rather
well, we
than
need to bring them back. We need to bring them closer to us because we've been using distancing language, haven't we?
Exactly. And I really liked it. Should we go into nature news?
Yeah, it's not going to be good this week, Ryan. I know, I can tell from your demeanour and just everything, and also from me. But go on.
Okay, well let's go. Strap yourselves in, nerds. It's time for nature news. Let's go. Okay, right. Well, I've got like a quick nugget.
Give me your nugget.
Okay, well, owl sightings have increased in London, and it's not just in the suburbs. So, throughout London, and I'm not really surprised by this news. I'm over the moon about it, but I have been hearing so many more tawny owls around kind of Archway, Highgate, Hampstead in the last 2 or 3 years. This data is comparing 2010 to 2020. So, there's a good half a decade here that we still got to account for and see how that's changed. And it is going on sightings. So I was a bit like, 2020 was a lockdown year. Were more people just, it's hard to kind of tell. But barn owl sightings went from 25 in 2010 sightings in London to 347 in 2020.
Hey, can I ask you a question? What's London? Is that within the M25?
What's London?
Well, come on. Know what I mean?
Well, it will be Greater London, I would imagine. It's
Greater London, though, M25, inside the M25.
It is an area of southeastern England that includes the City of London and the 32 London boroughs.
There you go.
So there you go.
But that's a big area, so yeah.
It is a large area. But also tawny owls. Where was those numbers that I've got here somewhere? So they went, reports of sightings have increased from 159 in 2010 for tawny owls to 894.
What?
Mad, isn't it?
That's huge. 800 of them are you. They're your sightings.
They're all my sightings. That's around Park Club Walk. So I just thought it was a nice bit of news to show the potential for biodiversity in our nation's capital.
I like that story.
Nice, just a quick bit.
It's a quick bit. I'd like
the link's there if you want to read more about it, nerds.
Yeah, I mean, let's hopefully let's throw some little owls in there next time. I would like to know, actually, I would love to have a look at biodiversity in London, like over the last 6 decades, and just see how that's changed. I imagine it's gone up.
I reckon so. I mean, obviously, climate change you can't really help, but I think there's a lot of things.
I think there's been a lot of protection of green spaces.
Yeah, I think so. And a lot of change of management. I know Hampstead Heath changed their mowing plan about 4 or 5 years ago, or maybe longer actually. And as a result, that's how we've had more small mammals arrive and more kestrels and then other birds of prey, sparrowhawks and stuff like that. So that's interesting, isn't it?
Very interesting. All right. So my nature news is less nature news, more nature musing from me.
Oh, she's written a segue.
Well, this is I was reading obviously the news today because that's our job for the purpose of this
per our show.
For this podcast. And it's not a news story. We knew that Sizewell C had been given approval, but with the spending review tomorrow, we are actually recording a day early, and I did say last week that I would do a review of the spending review, but that's going to have to come next week. However, there is as with all these things, we kind of have got an idea on what direction the government is going to, which is going to go. So there's a few news stories around the investment that's going to go into Sizewell C.
Which, for those who don't know, just in case, it's a proposed nuclear power plant station, right?
Yeah, which is on the east coast, right next. I mean, basically in an area of incredible biodiversity, but also special.
Because why would we not put it there?
Special area of conservation, but also a Ramsar wetland site, which is a global kind of designation for the importance of wetland birds. And so the government said on Tuesday, which is today, it would commit £14.2 billion to the project. Oh, actually, no, that's just more broadly, but including 2.7 billion earmarked for Sizewell C in the autumn budget. Already having committed 3.6 billion to Sizewell over the past 2 years. But it's just this thing where I actually really rate Ed Miliband. I actually like Ed Miliband. But
I loved him.
I like him. And, but actually, he's supporting, because he's the energy secretary, so he's supporting this and saying like, electricity, so basically this, this article is going on about that this money's going to have to come. And obviously like citing that our energy needs as a country are going to double. Like we are going to just need more and more electricity. And there's part of me that's just like, if I was in government and was like, we just have to keep the grid fired up constantly. We can't let the grid turn off, right?
Yeah.
And part of me is just like, I can kind of understand them just being like, we just are going to have to get this electricity from somewhere. And the reason why it's actually more expensive than renewables, nuclear power. But renewables have to have battery backup to store the energy for when we need it, which is more complex than nuclear, which can kind of like fluctuate based on our needs. Obviously I don't support it. And what do we do with the nuclear waste and all of these problems? And it's going to have an enormous effect, but it's just one of those musings of like, where you can kind of almost understand where, I don't know, people are just like, here's a solution. I mean, it's a stupid one, but it's just, we're just really ramping towards this thing coming now. And also the other musing that I had about it, and I'm interested on your thoughts, Ryan, is that, and maybe this is just me hyperbolizing, but a lot of the tech that we use that uses electricity is getting way more efficient, including like considering like old light bulbs compared to LED light bulbs, right? It's a fraction of the amount of electricity for the same amount of light. So electricity is getting smarter. What we are relying more on is AI. To do a Google search using old Google technology compared to AI is something like 30, 40 times the carbon.
Yeah, so I read that the other
now
day.
It's automatically embedded into our technology. Doing the same things on my phone now compared to 2 years ago is taking an extraordinary amount more electricity and carbon. And it just makes me think like, is our electricity need going to double? Is that because we're going to be using electric vehicles? Like, what are we doing to reduce our reliance on electricity? And I don't know. It's kind of nature news because, this is coming out within the budget and, the money is going towards it. It does give us lots of questions to ask, but it's more just like this, electricity is going to double. Great. Let's make more electricity, as opposed to, can we turn the lights off for a bit?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Can we look at our usage?
It's my nature musing.
Wait a minute. So nuclear, I don't know a lot about it, but I know, like you said, it's hard to, you can't, disregarding the waste, nuclear waste. Is there still nothing for that?
No. So, really,
we still ain't cracked that egg.
If you're really, really interested in this, I mean, look into it. It's really fascinating. I actually read about it in Rob McFarlane's book Underland last year, and I do recommend reading. There's a whole chapter where he is in these deep, deep, deep underground vaults where it's the nuclear waste, those rods that you see in The Simpsons. glowing green.
Thank you for talking to my level.
Well, but everyone knows it's this physical thing which is radioactive, which is dangerous to be near because it gives you cancer and all of these other problematic things that radiation does to the human body. But they're encased in like copper and then nickel and then iron and then in concrete and then like they have these, I've made up what those layers are, so physicists do not write into the show. But there are these layers of different metals and concrete around them.
Right,
and then on the walls of these places, this is how insane this is, right? They've had to come up, because humans in, say, 10,000, 20,000 years' time or 100,000 years' time, we need to tell humans in the future,
not to crack it open.
Go in here. So instead of putting it in English, they're having to use symbols because in the future we might not be used language that we understand today. So they're having to put symbols which are like, So you know what humans are like? They're like, well, this is going to be like Indiana Jones. This is going to be gold in here. They're cracking that open.
Climate change is not going to be the end of the human civilization. That's going to be the end.
It's curious humans, isn't it? I mean, we knew that Tutankhamun, it was like all kinds of spirits guarding that, but crack that open.
Oh, there's going to be so many Hulks. There's going to be so many Hulks. Yeah, that's going to fuck shit up.
Anyway, but I mean, keep an eye on the budget and the spending in terms of how it's going to affect nature. But this is just, I don't know. I just feel so powerless.
I don't know how I feel about it because I think if people are concerned about using nuclear energy, obviously, from an emissions point of view, it's way better. If it's higher risk, that's worrying. If it's being plopped on a site of special scientific interest, I mean, that's worrying. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know enough about it. I don't know enough.
I just feel like if we took nature seriously, we would have been finding solutions a long time ago.
Hey nerds, sorry to interrupt the show, it's Ryan here. I just wanted to pop on to tell you something quick. We always want Into the Wild to be a free and accessible show, but it does cost to run this thing. So if you ever have any spare pennies or pounds and you want to chuck it towards your favourite nature, wildlife and conservation podcast, then you can do so by going to www.ko-fi.com/intothewildpod. The link is in the write-up of this episode. Anything you're able to give goes straight back into the shows we produce. Anyway, I'll shut up now. Back onto nature news. Okay, right. Well, I'm going to come in with some slightly better news because you did message me today saying you've got one that's a bit blur or everything's a bit blur at the moment. So I did some digging to try and find some better stuff. And this one is that the Yurok Nation reclaims vital creek and watershed to restore major salmon run, which might not seem like a big deal, but wait until you hear the deets of it and you're going to be like, oh, God, that's actually mega, right? So I'll read some bullet points here to give you a bit of a rundown of this story. So basically there's 4 dams now that have been taken down in the Upper Klamath River in Northern California, which is the largest river restoration project in US history. It's got a rarely mentioned cold water creek that's essential to restoring health to what was once the 3rd largest salmon run on the west coast of North America. The Blue Creek, which is called, is located just 25 kilometers down from the mouth of the Lower Klamath in the Pacific Ocean. And critically, it's the first cold water refuge for migrating salmon that enables the fish to cool down, survive, and move further upriver to spawn. The Yurok, which is the California's largest indigenous tribe, lost ownership of the Blue Creek to westward US expansion in the late 1800s. But in 2002, a timber company started to negotiate with the Yurok, and they agreed, you're not going to like this bit, they agreed to sell back the 19,000 hectares, which is about 47,000 odd acres, watershed to the tribe. It took Western Rivers Conservancy, an Oregon-based NGO, nearly 2 decades to raise the $60 million needed to buy the watershed back. In a historic transition, Blue Creek returns this spring fully to the Yurok indigenous community for conservation in its entirety. The tribe considers the watershed a sacred place as well. So I saw this news story and I was like, it is good news. It's horrible that you have to buy it back. I'll go into that in a bit in a moment. But it is, it is a wonderful thing to be happening. So a man called Pergish Carlson, a river guide and a member of the Yurok indigenous community, said that not many years ago, the Indian people, my people, could only fish here at night from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. We were run off by the government if we tried to fish earlier. This was always our river, our salmon, but the daylight hours were reserved for sport fishermen. So basically, how this land... A bit of the history about it, I'll tell you. So there was an act called the Dawes Act, which came into play in 1887, and it was during the administration of President Grover Cleveland. The act gave the US government, who were apparently eager to accommodate Western migration, the legal authority to strip tribes of their land and waterways, and by extension, their culture and identity, their hearts and their spirit. Joseph James, the chair of the 6,000-member Yurok Nation, said, "We, as Indigenous people, have suffered generations of trauma. I can look backwards, but it's not going to do any good. Things are changing and we're telling our story. We are acknowledging our partnerships and celebrating things we have made happen, things that maybe people would never think would actually take place." So it's just an incredible story, Nadia, when you kind of... This is over 2 decades. And the reason why this has taken so long is purely because it's that $60 million that they've had to raise. So they did work in conjunction with the Western Rivers Conservancy, which is an NGO, and a kind of a few conservation organisations, which did say, some people would say it's weird that, an Indigenous community are wanting to work with these kind of Western powers, but it is really empowered them to be able to get what they were going for in the end, and they pretty much knew they couldn't get that money off of the logging company that owned it already. So it made sense for them to work with these Western organisations to be able to raise the money. And a lady called Sue Doroff, who was a former president and co-founder of Western Rivers Conservancy, helped her. She said, "When we first took on this project, we were all in, but we saw no clear way to raise that much money. We had to be creative. In time, we figured out how to get it done. And there was so many different ways. They got funds, tax credits, all these kind of things to be able to get the money. And finally, in this year, they've got the remaining 6,000 hectares off of the logging company. So now it will be in full control of the Yurok tribe, which is amazing, right? Lovely bit of story.
Amazing.
What's your thoughts?
To be honest, I just have a comforting feeling when land goes back to Indigenous people who respect the land and treat the land as sacred, and more of that, and for free.
Yeah,
I mean, the funny thing is, 60 million is just like a drop. 60 million is nothing, right? And actually, it's like global debt. It's somewhat, big countries can just press a button and cancel the debt.
Yeah, exactly.
That poorer countries owe, they can just cancel it. And it's just, you just need to fudge the numbers. And it just upsets me that, having to wait 2 decades. But, hopefully it will kind of galvanise a sort of energy towards more of this type of stuff. I've actually got I'm aware of a very exciting project that's happening in England, relating to something about community right to buy, which when I can talk more about it, I will.
You will? Okay. No, thanks for the tease.
A little bit of a tease, but no, that's really interesting, Ryan. I hope that there'll be more systems to be able to provide that money quicker next time.
Yeah, exactly. And it's because what Carlson was saying, and the people that have worked on and lived on that river for generations were saying that the number of salmon have dropped massively due to the activity that's on there. So it's not just that they want to take it back to own it. And Joseph James, the chair of the Yurok community, did actually say, he said, you have to smile a little bit when you realise you're buying back your own land. Yes, it's a hefty price, but it's also priceless. Mm-hmm. And I kind of like that kind of idea of it.
It's almost like, take the money out of it. This is just another white barrier that we've got to overcome.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Because money is the currency of, white people, and actually in terms of, Indigenous views of land and nature and relationships, I guess it's a barrier. And because it is priceless, right?
It is. It's priceless. It's not just the fact that, they want to live and fish whenever they want. It's the fact that the number of salmon have dropped significantly because of logging damage and because of dams and stuff. They want to change that.
Let's see if we can remember. We need to have a little clipboard, don't we, of all of the stories that we want to come back and check up on, because I would love to be sat here in a year's time with you going, Ryan, the salmon are back.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is a good way to sum up, because this is week 19 of Nature News. which means the next one's going to be week 20, and we are going to be doing not a deep dive. We're going to be returning to a few of the stories we've covered this year on Nature News. So Nadia and I have got some work to do to listen back and try and remember the stories that we've got to go back to. And we're going to give you some updates on ones that kind of had maybe not a complete closed book end. And we go, well, we need to revisit that and see how that panned out. So week 20 of Nature News is probably going to be a longer one. But it's going to be journeying back in the last 19 weeks to look at the news stories we've shared. So thanks for tuning in to another Nature News. Nerds, reminder, we're going to be at Global Bird Fair on July 12th, Saturday, July 12th at 6 p.m. on the Osprey stage to do Into the Wilds Nature Room 101. We've got a banging lineup. And if you're not following us on social media, do it. You know where to find us. If you'd like to donate anything to us, coffee.com/Into the Wild Pod. All the links that you need to do one of these roundups one day.
I'm going to do it. And I tell you what, you will see the donations pouring in when I say it.
All the links to all the stories we've spoken about on today's show are in the write-up of this episode. Until next week, when we've got the longer Nature News coming up, look after yourselves. Love to the family.
Keep nerdy.
See you later.
Bye.